I am Rebecca Weston, and I'm here with one of the participants in my Camino walk with Rebecca. This is Margaret Faure. Am I saying your name
Four.
right?
Yes, four.
Yep.
Like Denver.
Um, yep, Margaret Faure. And so we are on day 3 of our walk on the Camino Inglés. We started in Ferrol, and we are walking to, or my Margaret and three other people are walking to Santiago de Compostela. The first 3 days we do together, and then the last
Mhm.
4 days, everyone can continue on to Santiago, where I will meet them at the end. So thank you, first of all, Margaret, for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Mm. And my first question is, how did you first hear about the Camino de Santiago?
Well, I think, in my life, I've heard a lot about different sort of religious pilgrimages and different things. One thing I was thinking about was a novel I read when I was a young adult, Kristen Lavransdatter. She did a um, pilgrimage of repentance to the Trondheim Cathedral in Norway. So the whole idea, and then there was, Canterbury Tales and that. Then I did have a couple brothers that actually did the Camino. I think it was 2013.
Mhm.
One of my brothers did the entire Camino Frances with his wife, and then my other brother and his wife met part of the way through. So they had lots of stories about that. And, I'd say, oh, geez, I'd really like to do that, but I don't know if I can. But that's sort of how I heard about it. And so,
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, and then my next question is, what made you go from hearing about it, thinking about it, to actually like, okay, I'm gonna do this?
well, good old Substract algorithms. Somehow you showed up on my Substack feed. And I don't know that I ever really put in Camino or anything like that, but there you were. And I, would sort of read things you had to say and, oh yeah, sure, sure, sure. That doesn't maybe, but no, not really.
Mhm.
And then you came out in, what was it, Augustish? You came out,
Yeah.
so I'm going to lead a group. And so then I started going back to your Substacks and reading them through. And, it really inspired me that, yes, indeed, I can do it. I turned 70 this year, and I thought, I'm not too old for this. I can still do this. I'm in pretty good shape. So that's sort of what convinced me. And that was it. You
Oh.
convinced me.
Well, wonderful. I'm glad you're here, and inspiring as well, because you just had a total knee replacement only 11 months ago,
Right.
correct?
Yes.
So tell us
Yes.
about, did you have some concerns around that, or tell us what kind of training
Uh,
you did? Like what were you thinking?
I sure did. I mean, um, I found the knee replacement to be the recovery to be a little more difficult than I thought. And I think that's pretty typical. They all say, oh, it'll go fine, it'll go fine. And then you're in the middle of the night and it hurts like, the Dickens. And so I took a good 6 weeks before I really didn't have a lot of pain. But I had a great physical therapist. He really got me moving, and I followed his what he had to say. And then I've always sort of enjoyed walking, but you know, 2, 3, 4 miles, maybe something like that. I live in Seattle and very close to this Discovery Park, which has some great trails that I would do. So, I was walking quite a bit, and things just kept getting better and better. Now my knee is not a 40-year-old knee anymore, unfortunately. It's my 70-year-old knee, and I'm okay with it. It's done well. And so here I am. I think actually my operative knee is better than my other knee. So that's
Gotcha,
good.
gotcha. Yeah, it is indeed. And speaking of training, tell us, you said you walked a few miles every day anyway. How did you change your walking at all in order to prepare for
Yeah,
this?
I did for sure. I mean, I think you had sent out some ideas and I'd read other things. So I was working up to, I think you had suggested work up to 6 miles a day,
Mhm, mhm.
6 days
Yeah.
a week or something like that. And, I never quite got it that good. But the other thing I did was I would try to do every week, and that was starting in mid-August, I guess, when I started
Mhm.
doing that. Then, when September hit, and even later September, I tried to do an 8, a 10, and 12, 12, yeah. And then I did a 15, and 15 is the longest we're doing. So
Mhm.
so I have done the distances so I could say to myself, well, I can do it. And I did do it daily,
Mhm.
day after day, not necessarily, 7 days a week, but so
Mhm.
I knew that I could, get up the next morning and do walking and not, freak out. So yeah, it worked.
It worked, and indeed it did, because here you are. So, and I wanna just emphasize again what you said about doing it daily, because, yeah, even if you're not doing 6 miles daily, but at least one of the challenging things for people is they'll say to me, "Oh, I've done a 10-mile hike. I did that last Saturday." And then I say, "Well, did you walk 10 miles on Sunday and on Monday too? Because that's what the Camino is." And so it's great that you had at least that, not at least, I mean, you did some great training there for sure. But yeah, that continuity of kind of that daily practice as much as possible, plus those distances, that's great. And how do you feel that your training is serving you so far? We're on day 3. How do you feel like you're doing so far? And
Well, I think so. We've had 3 days and we've done, around 10, maybe a little less
Mhm.
than 10 every day. And so I think it's worked, I think that I'll get up tomorrow and I'll do another 10 and it'll be fine. So I think, and there's the other thing I was thinking about, that it really helps with a group, whether it's just another person or it's a group of people, and we have the 5 of us. Um, you know, th- they're there, you're gonna get up and go because 'cause they're getting up and going. It's 8 o'clock. We eat our breakfast, we're gonna go. So it really helps to have other people there. Now if you were doing it solo, you just have to, I think, do that initial up and out, and then you see all the other pilgrims, and so that helps. I mean, you're not alone out there doing this, walking, and
Mhm.
then you can see people that, are walking, struggling a bit, people who are not struggling a little bit. I'm amazed at the older couple. Here I am calling these people older couple, and this guy is just he's really spry, and his wife is too. I'm amazed at them, and that's what I wanna be able to do, in another 10, 15 years.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing to see when you get out here. Oftentimes, you're like, "I am not the oldest one out here by any
Right.
stretch."
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's inspiring to see other people. But yeah, I mean, after I've done over a dozen Caminos at this point, and there are still mornings I wake up and I'm like, "What am I doing?" And then, I get up, get going, I start to see the other pilgrims, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I love this. I just so enjoy it." Speaking of things that you're enjoying, can you tell us some of the highlights? Any highlights you wanna tell us about here?
Well, you sent me the questions. One of the highlights for me is I actually haven't traveled alone in a long time. Usually, my husband and I travel places. We've traveled lots of places, internationally and in the United States, but I haven't traveled alone in a long time, and that was primarily work, I think. And so that in itself was a highlight for me, just to, okay, say goodbye at the airport and get on the plane, do everything. And, nothing hard about it really, but just being able to do that. And then obviously a highlight for me is I am doing this with my daughter. And, that's haven't been able to do a mother-daughter trip like this. So that's really, really nice to be able to do this. We have a lot of fun, and
Mhm.
we laugh a lot. So it's been good. I mean, that's a highlight. Um, Meeting these people, as I say, as you go along, you meet the same people, and it's fun to see them again. Some of them we aren't going to see again, but some I think we will, and that's been really interesting to do that. And then the group you've assembled has been, the other two ladies are really interesting and fun to talk to, so that's a highlight. Um, the mm, this countryside here, it's beautiful. I mean, sometimes we're on paved roads and everything, but it tends to be just beautiful. It's a lovely, up and down, but very pretty. It's
Mhm.
nice. And, just, interacting with people in the cafes and restaurants, has all been really positive. So those things are all it just makes it for very a memorable experience that nothing like I've done before.
Awesome, awesome. And for you mentioned that you were traveling alone, and can you tell us a little bit about your daughter, where she lives, and how you guys ended up deciding to do this together?
Well, so when I decided to do this, and you had said that doing the Camino alone is very doable, and
Mhm.
as a woman alone, there's a lot of people you can do it. It's no biggie. Um, but I thought, oh, I'll just call Emily and see if she wants to go. And when I first called her, she said, oh, I'm busy at work, and I have to think about vacation and all the things that happen when you're a working girl, So, then, 3 days later, 2 days later, she goes, let's do it. Let's do it. And so I said, okay, sounds good. Let's do it. So then she lives in the UK. So that's the other thing is I don't get to see her very often. You know, yearly, certainly, if not more. But, a lot of people see their kids more often than that. So we had to sort of figure out, what days we're going to arrive. And then we met in A Coronia.
Mhm.
And the day before we started. So we met early in the morning that day. She flew in, and then we made it to Farol and then started the next day.
Wonderful, wonderful. And for those of you that are watching, if you, I interviewed Margaret's daughter, Emily, a couple days ago. I had some technical difficulties at first, but if you bear through those in the beginning, we still had a great conversation. And so there's that. And so my next question, Margaret, is we had our first day was pretty flat. We're walking, basically around and over kind of these various rivers. From Ferrol to try and get down to Santiago de Compostela. But today we had some more elevation than we usually do. How tell because some people are concerned about physically walking the Camino de Santiago. So we had a climb out in the beginning of the day. We had a couple climbs closer to the end of our day. But tell us a little bit about that. How was that for you?
Well, the big climb, and I'd read about this that oh yeah, the climb out of Pontajoyeme is quick and steep. But it's the first thing you do. It's like okay, I can do this. And towards the end, it was like okay, I'm ready for this to end. But it did, and then it was fine. Um, I was almost more concerned about the downhills, as anybody with bad knees would tell you that downhills can be just as hard. Um, so, both ways, but you're much more taxed cardiovascular, you know, um, going up. We complained about him. We complained that there was another turn and up and okay. But we were able to do it. As I said, I had two things that I did was one, I just sort of tried to release the tension. My shoulders tend to get sort of tense and just walk it. And then the other thing is that you just give it up for the poor souls, as my mother would have me do. So I did. And we'll continue.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, because we're not quite done yet with with some
No.
elevation. So yeah, yeah. So we let me just take a look at what other concerns and then for those people that are considering walking the Camino de Santiago and maybe on the fence and thinking, hey, I'm 70, like you, Margaret. I don't, you had a knee replacement. People come up with all these things like, I don't know if I could do it. What would you say to those folks who are considering it but really not sure?
Well, the short answer is always just do it. But because you're not getting any younger. And, look at it, seriously, it is work and you make sure that you feel like you're able to do it. But the bottom line is that it's an experience you don't have, maybe you'll be someone who comes back for them and does them many times, but I think a lot of people maybe do it only once. And so you have this wonderful once in a lifetime experience that you'll always remember. And so I think, with a little planning and a little, training, it's a good idea. But yeah, I think people should, seriously consider it. You're not too old. You've had people that did it, at 75 and older that you knew. And
Mhm.
as I say, this other couple that, I don't know, they've got to be 80 at least. And just, they're able to do it. So, if you want to do it, do it. It's-
I have one more question before we sign off. Could you give us a kind of a day in the life? Like, can you just take us through getting up and the packing, the luggage, the breakfast, like kind of take us through your day?
Right. One of the things is, so I've been retired, so I sleep in. So I remember you told us you have to get your luggage down by 8. And so I thought, oh Lord. so, so we get up at 7. And that's enough time for us to get, the night before we've gotten everything ready, so all we really have to do is brush our teeth and get into our clothes and pack everything up. So then at 8, we hand off the luggage, and after that, there's really no reason to stick in our room. So go get our breakfast and, get our cafe con leche, which is, great, and toast. This morning we had a great one. We had some yogurt and some cheese and meats, and it was really good. And the orange juice, fresh squeezed orange juice,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
was lovely. So we've been spending, an hour over breakfast, and that's good. And then you put your jacket on if you need to, and get your poles and just take off. And then, just walk along, look for coffee again, or some more food, more sustenance, at that point. I like the way you have sort of planned it out so we can get in for a lunch that's big, about 4 or 5 hours later.
Mhm.
Uh, so you eat between 1:30 and 4:30.
Mhm.
And it seems like it's been closer to 3 when we've been ready to eat.
Mhm.
So we eat, and then, we chit chat for a long time at that point in time. We rest a little. We get out, maybe walk around wherever we are and just take in the city. I know you and, Kathy and Vicky went to the Pilgrim's Mass last night in
Mhm.
Pondoemi. That's another thing. You can do retail therapy, the whole bit. And then, I like to be able to get to beds, at a decent hour because we repeat it. Well, and again, before you go to bed, you make sure everything's all ready to go for tomorrow. You know where everything is. And, so it's just,
And
it's
that's the
like,
cycle. Yeah.
it works, and,
Mhm.
maybe do a FaceTime home or something like that, and
Mhm. Mhm.
it's
Yeah. Yeah, and for those that are just wondering the luggage service, the kind of
yes.
Camino we do, tell folks about the luggage service.
So, yeah, the luggage, we don't port our stuff on our, the backpack, and that's if I really had to do that, I don't think I could. Well, I don't want to say I couldn't do it, but it would be difficult and I wouldn't probably
Mhm.
enjoy it as much. So uh, Rebecca has arranged someone, but you make it sound like it's very easy.
Mhm.
By 9 o'clock in the evening, you arrange for it. You put your luggage out at 8, and then it shows up at your next hotel or wherever you're going. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, the downside, I guess, in that is a little lost spontaneity if that's your deal. But I think that I don't mind it at all. I mean, it's good. I know where I'm going to stay. I'm sort of a planner. I've already figured out, written down somewhere in my guidebook, exactly where we're staying every night, and so how many miles between. So that's fine. But
Mhm.
the luggage gets there. No problems that we've had at all. I mean, you had a little issue with your original um, choice.
Luggage plan, yes.
Yeah, wouldn't pick up at a certain place, but there's options. There's more options than just one.
Mhm.
So it
Yeah.
seems like, if you don't want to have to do this and you already are a planner and you know how far you're going to go that day, why not?
Yeah. And you can plan it even further ahead. Like, so you can plan out the whole thing ahead of time and go online and tell them everything, or you can exactly like you said, up till 9 o'clock PM. You can send them a message and say, "Hey, come pick up my bag tomorrow," and you figure it all out and go from there. And um, so yeah, and tell us a little bit like what do you carry with you during the day?
During the day, I have my rain gear, although I sometimes, if it doesn't look like it's gonna rain, I don't bother, but now and in our first day, it did, so
Hmm.
we definitely had our rain gear, whether it be poncho or rain, um, jacket and pants. Um, I have my little medical kit, with my blister pads and, ibuprofen or Aleve or whatever. I have some food, um that's, about it. My books, my Braille that I take my guidebook, and, although I use my phone a lot because of, the Camino app. I can't remember the name. It was a long
When
yeah, right.
Camino.
It's great. You know exactly where you are and where you should go, and,
Hmm.
rely on that a lot, and it's worked. Um so, your lip gloss, your sunscreen, the things that you need. So,
And I keep saying one more question, but then I keep coming up with another one. So, um, tell us, people do have concerns about getting lost on the Camino. Can you talk a little bit about the signage and finding it and getting lost and that kind of stuff, recovery from that? And
right. Yeah, my daughter said we got lost. We got lost once. The first time we just weren't paying attention, and it was right in Farol as we were leaving, and we didn't bother to, we were very green at that point. And we figured out right away, I don't think this is right. And, I got on the app and I said, no, it's not right, and so, we figured out how to get back on. The other time we sort of felt that the turn we missed wasn't really easy to see. It was
Mhm.
a hairpin turn, and we just started going around. The mistake we made is that we just sort of did this big loop on a incline and decline,
Oh gosh.
that we could have just turned around and maybe gone back to find it, which would have been maybe a smarter idea. Um, how did we figure out that was wrong? I don't know. It just sort of hit us that I don't think this is right. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
And then and there are trail markers that
mhm.
are,
Oh, yes.
you know, so sometimes I think people feel like I haven't seen one in a little while. So that's sometimes a clue. And the other thing that a lot of people, when we're on the Camino, if we don't see other pilgrims, that's usually
Mhm.
like, because usually we're all walking approximately the same time.
Right, right.
We don't all start right at 8 or 9 or whatever, but people in general are starting at a certain time in the morning, and you're going to run into people. And um,
Well, yeah, the time when we were lost, I don't think we really went, but maybe, I don't know, 200 meters past where we were supposed to turn. We just made the mistake of fiddling around, instead of turning around and going backwards.
mhm,
It would have been
mhm,
much easier on us.
yeah,
But, it was fine. We weren't overly taxed that day. So
mhm,
it was fine. And since then, we did have, it was today, we were walking along, and one of the things, you have the stone plinths that have the thing on there, and then you also have these yellow, arrows that are, on the pavement. And there was a turn with the yellow arrow, and there was a woman ahead of us, and some man stopped and said, "Don't go that way. That's really not a turn." Um, and there was no, because typically you would have also seen with a 90-degree turn like that, you would have seen a stone marker.
Stone
We didn't
marker.
see, yeah, but it would have confused us for sure.
Hmm.
So the man stopped and said, "Don't go that way. It's down a little bit more." So that's what, Camino Angel, it's, maybe we call him, stopped,
Hmm.
and then we went, and it was fine. But yeah, after a while, you get very attuned to, okay, I'm walking straight, I'm walking straight. And do we turn, and you look up and
Hmm.
find it. And especially in a city, we walked through Mino today, or Mino, and, looked to see, and off in the distance, I can see
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
if it isn't the stone, it's just a tile that tells us which
Yeah.
way to. So
Yeah.
it's if you are the least bit observant, you should see it. And I guess if you're not that observant, maybe, I don't know, find someone
Do
who is or something.
yeah. Follow somebody else
Yeah.
who is, but
So
yeah.
I think this is particularly well marked. Um, so I don't anticipate, as you mentioned that you have walked with us these 3 days, and tomorrow you're going to let us go. So we're going to be on our own to find, and I have no problem. We'll do fine. It's the Camino is meant to be something that you go off and you can do by yourself with a group. You'll find your way. You might make a mistake here and there, but you get back on. That's part of the whole thing. And, it's part of what makes it more interesting is, oh yeah, we got lost and we found our way
There's
back.
another story for our memories, right?
Yes, yes. Uh-huh. So, that's part of the fun.
Yeah. And
It's
it's nice to know too. I mean, yeah, if you the Camino Trail Angel stuff I love. It's just amazing to me the number of times that people have these stories on the Camino of someone that helped them, some local who was like, "No, no, no, the Camino's over there." Or, people in these parts, they know you're on the Camino, they know where you're headed, they know what's going on. And
Mm,
so the people are, they're looking out for the pilgrims as well. So but like you said, it all tends to work out. I've, heard some wild stories of complete strangers helping pilgrims, which is
mhm.
just,
Yeah.
it's just amazing. It gives you, positive feelings about the world in general. So
Yes, it does for sure. So,
mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. Well,
And
oh
you,
yeah.
as we've seen other pilgrims, you've helped them a lot. I know they've listened to you, and it's been great. You share your knowledge with everybody, so that's wonderful. So
Yeah,
thank
it's fun.
you.
Some people will hear that I'm a guide on the Camino and they'll be like, "Oh, well, I don't know if it's okay to ask you." And I'm always like, "Yeah, I'm here to help people. It's, you guys happen to be my group, but it's not like they're taking anything away, when they ask a question, and that's what it's all about." So
It
it's
is.
a
It is. It's just people helping people.
Exactly, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Margaret, for telling us a little bit about your walk thus far on the Camino Inglés. And the group finishes in Santiago on the 10th. And we will be doing hopefully some live conversations from there as well to kind of have the final, what did everybody think of this and how did it go and all that kind of stuff. But so, yes, thank you once again. For those of you watching, I'm Rebecca from the Camino Calls. We have more of these Camino conversations. We do them every Wednesday normally, but since we're live on the Camino, we're doing them from the Camino. And feel free to join us or to subscribe. I do a newsletter every Sunday, in addition to these live conversations every Wednesday, and would love to help you and plan your Camino or inspire you to get out there and do it. So, thanks again, Margaret.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye.
Bye.